Hello, beloved listeners. This is Adrienne Marie Brown, writer of stories and songs, emergent strategist, pleasure activist, and witchy student living on the land of the Shakori, Skurure, Tuscarora, Eno, Lumbee, and other indigenous peoples. And this is How to Survive the End of the World, our podcast about learning from apocalypse with grace, rigor, and curiosity. When I say our, of course, I'm including my co-host and sister Autumn, who's currently on sabbatical. So in her absence, while I'm missing her and playing her music nonstop, we're going full witch, and we've been in witch school this season. So we're honoring the book Fables and Spells, and I'm having conversations with teachers, witches, healers, and reading you bits and pieces from the book. When I say witch, what I mostly mean is people who work with elements of the natural world, including human nature, to generate more possibilities. And this season, we've learned about so many kinds of witching, and there's even more. I feel like we just touched the surface, really, of a deep, deep world. I hope that you've been really excited about it. I've been really geeked out, and I've been learning a lot. As a reminder, we don't have any sponsors. There's no ads. There's no funders. We are listener supported. So if you are not yet part of our Patreon crew, you can go to patreon.com/endoftheworldshow and become a subscriber there, become a patron. So I'm really honored today to have my guest here. And we have been in conversation for years. It feels like going back and forth, trying to find the time for a conversation. So I'm here with Wambui. Is it Njuguna?
Perfect. You said it perfect.
Yay! And Wambui is a yoga teacher, is I think the primary work you do. You're an energy healer. You are all kinds of educator. And we've been trying to be in touch with each other about emergent strategy, yoga, like some kind of collaboration there. And it's kept being like, okay, not this year, not quite yet, not quite here, but there's something. And you actually reached out to me about being on your podcast, which definitely we're going to do. We'll figure out a time for it. But then I was like, well, I could have you on mine as part of this season. And here we are. And I'm really excited. We finally found our first conversation, Wambui.
Hey, I am thrilled to bits, Adrienne. You don't even know. I'm trying to hold it together, but I'm like,
I'm like, here we are. How are you right now today?
Right now, today, I am well. Like I said, I was super excited that today's the day I get to connect with Adrienne and talk all things witchy and wonderful. And like we were talking just before we did the thing, I'm in Miami Beach, just having a month of my own to just be in my energy, having given almost 10 years, to doing the mother witch thing. So I get to switch lanes a little bit and remember, my own magic. So I'm nourished and just so grateful we can be in conversation together.
Oh, how beautiful. Thank you for that. I have been using the language of witch for this season. I felt like heading into it, it felt like a broad enough container inside of which a lot of things could be explored. Mm-hmm. And some of those things have felt like real stretches. Some have felt like, oh yeah, this is totally making sense. So how do you identify the work that you do? Do you use the language of witch? Do you use other language for it? What are you up to?
Yes, I was so happy, first of all, when I got the email from you and your team around the topic, because I was like, I have been wanting to have a conversation around witchy things and witchy work and all the things I do. I proudly, can label myself as a witch and the work I do as witchy. And in fact, Sally Kempton, a beloved meditation teacher, she's transitioned now. She's no more with us on this realm. I emailed her a couple of years back to be like, our yoga practitioners, yoga seekers, witches? Can witches do yoga? And she came back with a very long, very thorough answer, which basically
Oh.
said, yeah, girl, you're good.
Yeah, you're
Don't
fine.
remember the exact specifics, like not all yogis are witches or not all
Yeah.
witches yogis, but essentially it was just like there is a parallel, there is, so you're good. So I was like, oh, fine, I'm gonna run with it. And
Ah,
so yeah, I think the work I do, and if you think of, the yoga as it's primarily practiced in the West, obviously the physical aspect, the asana is kind of what's really known. I mean,
yeah.
doing essentially is you're using your physical body, the material of your physical matter on this plane, and you're working with energy and you're
Yeah.
shifting the elements of nature that make up who you are. You're working with that. So
Yeah.
as within, so without the macro and the microcosms, the body, your bones, your fat, your flesh, that's earth elements. You have the water, the fluids, the blood, the tears, the salt water, there it goes. The digestive fire,
Mm.
that's the fire, the transformation, your sweat, the heat, the
Mm.
lack of heat, in your extremities when you get cold. It shows that we are so elemental.
Yes.
And then what to say of air and the very breath of life that is under your nostrils. So if that's not magic, I don't know what is.
Yeah. I mean, oh, I love hearing you speak about it because I do feel like there have been these moments of aha
Mhm.
for me on a yoga mat. There have been these moments of aha in my body, both during yoga and during Pilates, where I felt like, oh, I just made the most subtle shift and everything has changed. Like my body is firing up or my body is releasing or and I'm just like, oh, you could spend a whole lifetime just in the study of the subtle magics of the body and not so subtle magics of the body. So I love that
Absolutely.
answer.
Absolutely. I mean, as you speak, I feel chills going up and down my spine. So to say that, the somatic experience of being alive in the body is not magic, I just don't know what it is. But and you said it in an Instagram post. I think you posted around New Year's. It's the
Yes.
the mundane
The
miracle.
miraculous mundane.
I love that. And that's
Yes.
exactly what we're doing when we're practicing yoga. It's really the meeting of the practicalities of life, as a householder, so to speak, rather than a renunciate going out to the cave and just, you know,
Yes.
committing to the internal path within. As a householder, we are interacting with life, with family members, relationships, work, making money, paying bills, all that. So you have the practicalities of what it means to be a human interacting in society, but then you have the meeting of this mystical, divine,
Yes.
cosmic experience of what it means as well to be part of the manifestation. And so that's, I feel, yoga is that technology, is that art, is that science of the intersections, of the crossroads.
Yeah.
um mhm,
I love
mhm.
that. It's so important to, I think, having this conversation in the context of witchiness, because for me, I have felt like there's a way that people can turn to yoga and towards the realm of wellness to bypass, to spiritually bypass what's happening. And I
Oh
feel
yes,
like it's a mispractice, right? Like I'm like, oh, when I'm truly practicing, there's no bypassing possible. I am so present. I'm so in it. And in it, I can feel the cosmic, I can feel the mundane, the material, I can feel the wholeness. The wholeness is actually the thing. And from within feeling the wholeness, there's always right action to take. There's
that's right.
even if it's
Absolutely.
stillness, right? But there's
Absolutely.
something available. And so, I get very excited for people who are like making that connection of, oh yeah, this is an active spell casting, future shaping
Oh,
practice,
hmm,
right?
absolutely.
So let's go back
Absolutely.
a little bit. When did you realize that you were drawn to witchy work? When did you realize you were drawn to creating change in this way?
I mean, I think for me, it's just been a remembering my magic when I was a little girl,
Uh-huh.
with the imagination and just the spell casting that I used to do just in the in the season of childhood and play and magic and imagination, and obviously that gets indoctrinated out of one as you learn how to navigate, these structures and systems, and begin to take on external definitions of success and what it means to be a person in the world. So I think it's just been a remembering
Yeah.
remembering my magic, and remembering, what I forgot as I grew older and became more what's the word, um obedient and aligned to
Mhm.
surviving
That's
these
right.
structures of dominion, and essentially forgetting,
Yeah, that's what it is.
that what we know. So formally, I began yoga when I was studying dance in high school, modern dance. I was at a very rigorous professional art school in North Carolina, actually, North Carolina School of the Arts. And
Really?
yeah, 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 yeah. So I was there studying modern dance, but I got injured, and it wasn't
Oh,
vibing with me.
wow.
It wasn't vibing with me. And so I saw a flyer for like, come take yoga. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And I went, and I was like, wait, you mean I can actually be in my body and not have to perform
Yes.
an external audience, and it doesn't matter that my leg doesn't go up to here? And oh my god, is that peace I actually feel? Is that acceptance? Is that space? Is that, is that a like a hearkening of love I can have for myself with
Oh, how beautiful.
So I was young, I was 15, 16, and I kept doing it, throughout school and whatnot. But it wasn't until I was living in Abu Dhabi, as a
Mm,
28-year-old, that it became central and part of my lifestyle. Um, and it was at a time in my life where I had followed the script, study,
yes.
get higher education,
Yes.
get a trade, get a job, and start to make money. And I did all that, and I felt so empty and broken and destroyed within. And I was like, okay, Wambui, you're gonna have to get it together, because the relationship you have with yourself, it doesn't feel like such a good place to be in your body and in your
That's
mind.
right.
So what's it gonna be? So that's really when the seeds were planted, and I was able to make some deep, deep, deep internal shifts.
Oh, and where were you a little girl?
I was a little girl. I was born in Nairobi, Kenya. My dad is Kikuyu and my mother is British by birth, but she's now
Uh-huh.
also Kenyan herself. So yeah, I was born there, and I moved to the US when I was 10.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
And what
yes.
did you move to North Carolina?
So we moved to upstate New York, so very
Upstate
close
New
to
York.
Canada, in the
Okay.
Adirondack Mountains. Like, talk about like
Culture
witchy.
shock.
I was culture
Oh
shock.
yeah.
I just
Total
remember
witchy zone.
oh my gosh, the first autumn with all the leaves and how
Oh
beautiful
gosh.
that was. A magical time now that I
Yeah.
remember back. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful world, but it's been helpful for there's a part of the hurt place in me that is nourished by the medicine of the beauty of this land, right? The
Hmm.
beauty of the cycles of this land. I'm just like, oh right, like for whatever else the US is up to, much of which is damaging, there's
Sure.
still so much beauty here. There's still so much magic and aliveness and beautiful cycles. Okay, so you're a child in Nairobi, Kenya. You grew up, you come to the US, you're in Abu Dhabi, you like, hold on, everything must change. Like I really want to show up fully for myself, show up fully in my life. So this is a perfect segue then, because the next question I have for you is, who are your ancestors in the lineage of your work? And is there a formal lineage that you are studying? Like, so, I love what you described, because it's that moment of internal awakening. And for me, that always comes out. It's like, okay, something internal shifts. And then I start to look out and be like, I need a teacher, or I need a framework, or I need, like, who's going to catch this inquiry that's inside my soul? And I
Absolutely.
need
I
more
love that.
aliveness, right?
Yes.
So, who are the ancestors in the lineage of your work, and what are the formal lineages that you claim for your work?
I love that question first and foremost.
Yeah.
So I was always so just before I answer that, I need to
Yeah. Yeah.
say that I had trouble really. practicing daily and practicing on my own at home. Like I felt yoga was, I needed to go to a teacher, I needed to go to a gym, I needed to go to
Yeah.
a yoga studio, take the class, and then come home. And I would try to do stuff at home, but it was always a little haphazard. I never knew which
Mm.
poses to do. I could never really sit and do like a breathing practice or some kind of meditation practice. It couldn't stick like as a
Yeah.
lifestyle, right? So when I was in Abu Dhabi, I had the good fortune of attending an Ashtanga yoga workshop in Dubai.
Okay.
And Ashtanga yoga, you can say a lot about it, and it's all valid. However, the thing it has going for it is that it's this container. It has the structure where once you learn the poses and you memorize them and commit them to your body memory and your mind, you can do it anywhere, anytime, for
Yeah.
as long as you want, for as little as you want. You have that structure, right? There's
Yeah.
that form. And so in that form, in that, let's say, masculine energy container, then there's a lot of room to play. Like, am I going to do sun salutations and then breathe for a while? Or am I going to do
Yeah.
a longer practice? You can really give yourself the freedom and the permission to make it your own practice, but you need that kind of you need that structure, or let me say, I needed that structure in order to have the clarity and just know what to do, like what comes next,
Yeah.
so it doesn't haphazard and just um so that, I would say, is my root practice. And it's
Mm.
funny because I just posted on my Instagram how I don't practice in the sort of dominant paradigm as it's taught, meaning you practice 6 days a week and you do this certain structure. Like, I don't do that anymore because,
Yeah.
number one, for many reasons, um uh but still, it's my container, and it really
Yeah.
was the vehicle that allowed for this deep transformation to take place, right? So there's that, and that's what I teach and guide others in Portugal as well, where we've opened up a yoga studio in the Algarve, right?
Ah, that's amazing.
Yes. Well, Lamarad is coming in
I know,
April.
it's like I need to come out there too. I've got a
You're
dear friend of
welcome.
mine, one of my dearest, another one of my, I have a crew called the Goddess Crew that we all
Cool.
went to college together, and then we have kind of gone apart and lived our lives and then come back together. And one of them
Uh-huh.
is obsessed with the idea of creating like a healing center in Portugal, and is always
Yes.
talking about Algarve. Like they're like, Portugal is the place, and I was just like, okay, I keep hearing about it.
Now,
So that's so
no,
beautiful that you've actually created and started that journey.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's new and it's fresh. And our children are
Yeah.
still getting used to they were born in Finland. They're these like Finnish kids. Also, there's a little bit of a, let's say, learning curve that comes with the language and the culture. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of promise. So, but speaking of
Okay.
lineage, I consider Lama Rod as well. He's like my
Oh,
principal.
yes.
He was I had some questions, 2018, 2019, 2020, about this whole spiritual bypass piece you talked
Yes,
about earlier,
yes.
and noticing it, and just living the culture of just the threads of dominant culture and how it shows up in our spiritual and wellness spaces,
Yeah.
and who's there, who's not there. Can I show up in the fullness of who I am, or do I have to perform, my beingness? You know what I mean. So I began
Yeah.
to seek teachers who brought identity, who brought social location, who brought the peace around collective liberation, who brought the grief, who brought the rage. I needed
Yes.
folks to show me, that it was okay to show up as I am. So yeah, Lamarod Owens was a huge has been a huge influence in my life, especially when we're talking around how to show up in the full authenticity of who you are, especially
Including
around
the rage.
identity politics, how to work with
Yes.
rage, how to work with grief. Michelle C. Johnson also was another really huge influence for me in the beginning, where she's like, I'm just noticing how, number one, dominant culture shows up in the spaces. Number two, there's no container to talk about these spaces truthfully and compassionately, keeping right
Mm.
relationship in mind. there's a whole lot of spiritual bypass going on. Do you not notice the way in which suffering is showing up in these spaces and how it's connected to the suffering that's showing up in the outer world? You know, whatever's
Yes.
happening in terms of um, genocide and people not getting what they need to be well. And how come we can't have the conversation there when we're talking about, you know, examining the nature of suffering and liberation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So seeking out, you know, essentially Black American yoga teachers, Black American Buddhist teachers that really, really, and I was living in Finland at the time, right? So very white, homogenous
Yeah.
environment. Not many Black folk, and not many Black folk who are interested in things that are witchy and spiritual, and
Wow. Mm-hmm.
or at least I was having a hard time connecting with them, right? Like not meeting them in a way that felt like super held in community. Um, so I went deep with Lama Rod, especially in 2020. I remember those early days of COVID when everything was shut down, and he was there, you know, on his
Yes.
original Instagram, you know, doing the Tara practices,
Yes.
doing the breathing, the somatic, and I was just like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna ride with you. This is a he
Beautiful.
represented a lamp in the darkness, an anchor, and I was like, all right, Lama, let's
That
do
makes
this.
me so happy, actually. Like he's one of these spirits that gives me peace, gives me a sense of more spaciousness. Um,
I love your intersection because number one, I was so sad I couldn't make it to Durham in
I
December when you were there.
know
I
we
was
had
like,
a
ah.
time.
But I remember just listening to the podcast with you and your sister, and it was Reverend Angel and Lama Rod. And I would take
Yes.
my little walk around the house in Finland, and it just felt like you don't understand how nourished I was by
Mm.
conversations like that. It was, what is it, you know, how to be a prophet at the end of the world, or being a prophetess. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
remember the.
it changed my life.
Oh
That
my goodness.
conversation with him.
I remember the aha moment
You
you and
you
Autumn
heard it. I'm
around
like,
what was
wait,
it?
wait, wait. Prophet means what?
Lama Rod talked about trauma and how you have to love your trauma, and you and Autumn were like, "Wait, what are
Hold
you
on,
talking
slow
about?"
down. Exactly. Multiple times. And he's like that, you know, whenever we talk, I feel like he's able to do that with a beautiful simplicity, actually, is to be like, well, actually this, and
You're
just
like,
spin it on its head, and which is what my all of my favorite spiritual teachers do, you know, with me. Like whenever I talk with Prentice, I'm like, oh, that, yep, you're right. I
"This
accept
is
that
another
adjustment, right? And it
one."
makes me think of like acupunctural or chiropractic, you know, it's just like there's a specificity of like, let's get in here and like, and
Yep,
it's just like actually a totally different possibility.
totally.
Um,
And
yeah,
that
I love
same
that
aha.
lineage.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just need
You can
it's
cut me
just
off. It's your
in that
podcast.
same
I want to hear what you have to
hours,
say.
hours. It's I want to hear what you have to say too. No, and I just have to call in, you know, the medicine of Sen Mori Soundararajan and the IG live you
Yes.
had with her when
Yes.
her book Trauma of Caste came out. It was
Yes.
I just need to call her in because that conversation was powerful,
Yeah.
and the sort of witch protection casting you did for her and what she's doing, and
Yeah.
and the protection she absolutely, we need
Needs.
to hold her as a
Mhm.
community. So I just absolutely have to call her in because she's another one who's a powerful spellcaster and liberator. So I just want
Mhm.
to call in our girl Zen Mori.
I
Mm-hmm.
love that you called her in, and, you know, there's such an interesting thing happening right now. What she did around Trauma of Caste and then Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste, now Ava has
Mm-hmm.
turned into the movie Origin. There's
Origin.
this, it feels like, oh, we're in the middle of, you know, there's everything is all at once, yeah, but there's this shift happening that I'm so excited that Mori is a
Mm-hmm.
part of, for how we
Mm-hmm.
understand race inside of a larger context,
Oh,
and
global
class
one.
and ability and all of it inside of this larger context. That,
Absolutely.
yeah, I do feel like, you know, this is an era or an age of great awakening and great collapse, and
Absolutely.
like all the
Absolutely.
changes feel large scale.
Absolutely.
And
It feels like a constellation, and like the
yes,
lights are just like ding, 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 you know,
yes, yes,
lighting up,
yes,
and you're
yes, yes.
seeing how the threads interweave. You're seeing how, yeah, it's this great web, you know?
Yes, yes.
So
Oh, beautiful.
suffering, but also this great web of potential liberation. So I just want to call in both pieces. Yeah.
So okay, so then I mean, like, it's so great. In a given day, we knew it was gonna be like this, so it's just
I
great
knew
to
it.
actually be
I
like
didn't not have, I was like, we are gonna have things to talk about. I am not worried.
So, uh, what are the ways that
Mhm.
you do your witch work, like, in a given day?
Right.
What feel
Cool.
like the intentional practices, the intentional offers?
Beautiful. So now that I've identified that Ashtanga yoga is my root lineage,
Yeah,
and now that I've, practiced it enough that I don't feel the need to get on my mat and do a 90-minute hardcore asana practice 6 days a week. That just doesn't
yeah,
work for me. Um, my practice will shift from day to day. Um, I like to do things for my body energetically and somatically. Let's say maybe 3 to 4 times a week. That makes me feel good.
okay.
Sometimes I'll go for a walk and sit and sing to the waves and talk to the water. Okay.
Uh-huh.
um
I
I like
do
to be in
that.
nature and keep it elemental, especially if I'm carrying a lot of grief. Sometimes my yoga mat doesn't feel big enough to contain it, and
Ah,
the walls kind of cave in on me, so I have to go out into nature.
yes.
And I have the good fortune of being in a very rural place in Portugal, which there's a whole lot that it doesn't have going for it. But what it does have going for it is nature, the elements.
Yes,
Like, I
yes.
can go and look at the sunset, I can look at the waves, I can look at the big blue sky. I can miss being in a like beautiful, active, fun, sexy city, but I do have that nature, and I can go and just
Mhm.
remember that the ancestors are everywhere, that there are seen
Mm,
and unseen protective deities and beings and forces just waiting to help me,
yes.
waiting to hold my grief, waiting for me to like surrender into the wonder of what it means to be alive. So I go and I talk with them, and I'll offer flowers to the water, and I'll sing to the water, and I'll back in October 7th, when it was really hot on social media and I couldn't go just because it was too much for my nervous system, I would go and offer flowers to the water and be like, there's the
Mm,
salt water. There's
mhm,
the tears that I can't shed because my nervous system is just totally disassociated and numb, to
mhm.
witnessing what's happening, to our siblings. So there's that, like that's my practice. And this morning, I'll just give an example, had a beautiful practice at the yoga space, Miami Yoga Garage yesterday. I went very deep in my practice and it felt great. But today I decided I was going to do it different. So I let myself wake up with no alarm.
Mm.
I was very worried, this is the longest I've been away from my children. So I woke up worried about them, like, oh my God, what if something happened to them?
Ah,
They're on a beach in Thailand. What if something happened and I'd be so far away? So I prayed,
wow.
I called out to God and said, hey, I need your help. I need your help transmuting this worry. Help me, please. And I breathed. I opened the window. I let the fresh morning air in. Then I went to the garden in the house I'm staying and offered incense to the Ganesha statue that's in the garden. I
Mhm.
felt the dew on my feet. I felt the morning sunlight,
Yes.
and I was told, everything's going to be okay. Hand over the worry to me and let it transmute into trust and surrender. And then I called my kids, even if they
Yeah.
don't want to talk to me because they miss me too much. At least I could see their sweet faces and know they're okay.
Oh, is that oh,
So that was
so
my
tender.
that was my witchy morning practice of yoga. Just
Mhm.
really moving through it, and then I was, just reflecting on how, you know there's a price to pay for everything. If you put your
Yes.
energy here, it has to be taken from somewhere else. So right now I'm just delighting in centering my needs, my self-care, in achieving my dreams and desires, one of which was to connect with you on your
Yeah.
podcast and talk with you. Like, this has been many years coming.
Yes.
But what that means is that, yeah, I don't get to see my babies and,
Yeah.
kiss them on their necks every night like I do. So,
Yeah. Well, and I especially feel like the work of mothers, the work of parents, um, who are tuned in, right? Who are like, oh, there's a larger gift that I'm supposed to give that's not just
mm,
about what I need to give my family. There's
ooh,
something that I'm also meant to give beyond my family, but
facts.
my kids also need all of me. And I feel like I
Facts.
watch so many parents navigate that, like try to find the balance when you never can. Like it's kind of an impossible conundrum. And
It's yeah.
there's, so there's, it's like, how do I create enough in a condition in which everything wants more of me?
That is
That feels like
that
its
is
own
the
spell
question.
casting.
That is the
Yeah.
question. And
Mhm.
I will just speak, like, just speaking of motherhood, there's the, as I learn about light feminine and dark feminine archetypical energies, there's a lot of destruction that can happen when one's gifts are not able to express themselves, right?
Mm.
And how the container of the institution of motherhood, I'll say, it really can constrict and narrow these, let's say, wilder energies of the feminine divine as it expresses itself in me. And so I
Mm.
just want to speak to that piece for anybody who's struggling with the deeper yearnings of their heart,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how to express their gifts. Yeah, so I'm feeling so
Yeah.
deeply grateful to be able to have these avenues. And like I said, it's taken patience. It hasn't happened right away. And there were many days where I'm just yearning to connect and share
Yes.
and express. And it feels like, wow, this motherhood hat it can be kind of a little bit tight sometimes. So yeah, kids, let's go to the beach.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the
Absolutely.
beach.
Well, and I think there's, sitting on the side of being a non-mother, non-parent,
Uh-huh.
there's such a fascinating thing, which I've noticed, which is I wish we lived in a world in which we valued children most of all. Like,
Oh,
and that was actually the structure of the whole
you and
world
me
was
both.
like valuing the children. My friend Janine Denovaish and I often flirt with the idea of collaboratively writing something about that world, from a fiction and nonfiction standpoint. But
Oh,
because I
you and
do
me
feel
both.
like, oh,
Yeah.
like all the people in my life who are parents, I'm like, what you are doing is world building. You are
Mm.
co-creating the future through this person or these people that you are holding space for their becoming. And that's the same, I was like, when I'm writing a book or when I'm doing a ritual or when I'm, doing the work that I do, it's a different kind of co-creating of the world.
Mm.
But what I feel often is the kind of creating of the world that I'm doing gets valued in a certain way, like, oh wow, like you wrote a book. And I'm like, I didn't push it out of my vagina. I
Mm.
didn't I didn't dedicate every single moment of my waking life for the rest of my life to being on call for the safety, protection, dignity, and
Ooh.
care of another being. I took in some ways the lighter path, right? Of like, I'm going to put out these ideas. Some people will read them, some people will not. I'll never have to feed it. And if it disappears, fundamentally everything will be okay, right?
Ooh.
And there's something about what it would look like if the world was shifted. So it was like, yeah,
Mm.
everyone writes books, only some people, parent. And like that, I mean, people, everyone tries to play basketball. Some are really good, but the most valuable player is always the parent,
Mm.
right? Like
Ah,
I just feel like
Adrian,
that rearrangement to me would make so
Adrian,
much more sense of so many things.
I'm getting emotional as you speak, because what you invited me to do is rest in the dignity and the importance of what it means to be a parent and a mother. So thank you for that. You're
Yes.
absolutely right that there's value, like we exalt, like, wow, a book, a published book, and I'm
Mhm.
in that too. And so I tend to forget again the miraculous mundane of
Yes.
what it means to wake up and show up for your kids, even if you're
Yes.
tired and even if you're yearning for. So I just really appreciate you
Yeah.
seeing me and acknowledging the importance of what it is I do as a
Oh,
mother, as
yeah.
a
Because I feel
parent.
like so often I'm looking at parents and they're like, I've been doing this thing for 10 years. I'm like, parenting? You've been like, I mean, to me, the spiritual practice of parenting is so, it's all the things it's like when you get on a spiritual path, it's like, oh, there's sacrifice, there's
Mhm.
repetition of
Mm.
practice, there's, sitting in the mundane, there's, I'm cleaning the floors, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
parenting is like if you look at it through that lens, it's the ultimate spiritual practice. And I feel like I've gotten to be close enough to several parenting practices that I've gotten to
Mm.
tap in and be like, okay, now I'm in my parenting mode, and it is definitely my best self, right? Like
Mm,
when each of the babies were born, when my sister had her kids, when
mm,
my goddesses have had their kids, and I would show up and be like, okay, now I elevate to this higher self that is, I'm
mm.
awake when I want to be asleep. I am cooking when I want to be sitting. I am cleaning when I want to be cleaned. I am holding when I
Mhm.
want to be held. I am, and then I will step out of it, right? And it will continue to be the work of my friend or my sister.
Yeah.
And so yeah, anyway, I this is
No,
it's a detour, but I'm just sort of like parenting is the ultimate witchcraft. It's the ultimate spiritual practice.
I so appreciate that. And just one final piece I want to say is that, it kind of broke my heart. And there's a little anticipatory grief that
Mhm.
I felt as a parent, seeing this being, this magical being that came through me. I remember when my firstborn, when I just became a mother, um, came onto this realm, and I looked at this just perfect being. I felt already anticipatory grief as
Yes.
like, oh my God, like he's
Yes.
in a
He's of the world now.
male body. So what does that mean? If he wants to keep
Uh-huh.
identifying as that, what is that gonna mean? Like, what is my role and responsibility as a mother raising this male child? And then,
Mm.
now he's in, what is it, he's in third grade, and he's being socially conditioned. And my
Mhm.
heart broke when he said, yeah, you don't really do proper work at home. Daddy is the one who's doing the proper work, meaning going out and making the money. And I was like, all right, hold the phone. Like, I am not gonna have what I do for you disrespected like this, young man. Like,
That's
this is
right.
not how I raised you to be. And so we
That's
had to
right.
have a whole like plenary
That's right.
discussion, a
Well, it's also
whole
because there's a
panel
period
around
of
that.
which, and I think this is where it's very much like what I'm trying to do with this podcast, actually, is to make the invisible visible, like to
Oh,
make the
yes,
unseen visible and valuable to people. Because
absolutely.
I'm like, all the time, there are people who are casting spells for our general well-being. People don't
Hmm.
understand how many witches and spirit workers and shamans
Mm.
and healers
Ooh,
are constantly conjuring up the best possible outcomes for
oh
all
my
of us
God.
all the time, or for the
Oh
earth
my
all the
God.
time. And I'm like, you are constantly being prayed for and spell cast over, and like someone is operating on your behalf, whether you are aware of it or not aware of it, which is very much what parents are doing. It's like, I
Absolutely.
don't want you to
Love
know
that.
everything I'm doing. I just want you to live inside of having enough and having a room to play and having what you need. But at a
Absolutely. I love
certain
that.
point, for your maturity, you do need
Mm.
to now be able to see the
Hmm.
unseen, right? And I think part of why I wanted to do this podcast at this time was to say, I'm not going to demystify everything for you, because the
Mm.
mystification is actually really important for the
Hmm.
work to be able to move. But I do
Mm.
want to shed a little light on the fact that this magic is happening all the time and all around you, and people are doing it that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And you should be grateful. We should all be grateful that there are people out there who are just conjuring.
Conjuring. And it's I
Yeah.
love that. Thank you so much. The making the, I love that. I love that, making the invisible a little bit visible, but
A
not all the
little bit
way,
visible. Yeah.
I love that so much. And it just speaks to the emotional labor
Yes.
that is often unpaid,
Yes.
but really what's making the world spin.
Yes.
And so when we are talking about the yoga, when we are talking about the practices, when we are talking about this energetic work, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And I know I am, my word for 2024, Adrian, is
Mm.
generosity. Because there have been
Ooh.
so many instances where I see I am the recipient of so much generosity,
Yes.
um, both in tangible and intangible ways, both
Yes.
by people and the spirit world, human and beyond.
Yes.
And this is when we talk about like just remembering to remember just how generous life is for me in this moment. The breath, without my control, without me having any say so, is coming into my body, and that's me
Yeah.
receiving life. okay, and now I'm going to give it back to the primordial lender, because this is not just like about taking, receiving, receiving, receiving. Like,
Yeah.
I have to play my part as well. And so this is what I just, again, like, just calling in my teacher, Lamarod, speaks to this so much and gives a dignity to this unpaid emotional labor that really is the magic of what makes things, let's say, in balance, right? Because there's all
Yes.
kinds of spells being cast.
Oh, yes. Oh,
There's
yeah.
the spells that are casting further suffering and
Yes.
confusion and all kinds of chaos. And then there's the spells that are working to bring things into balance.
Beloved survivors, it's autumn. Wow, I've been loving this witch season. I trust that you have too, because it's just excellent. I'm still on sabbatical for a few more months, but Adrian and I did just drop a new Patreon exclusive episode over at patreon.com/endoftheworldshow. And it's a voice memo conversation that we recorded over the course of a few weeks. So if you love me and miss hearing my voice, if you love our show enough to listen to Adrian and I talk about new love, about aging, about roaches and utopias, you can head over to our Patreon and become a patron at any level. And you'll get immediate access to this most recent exclusive episode, as well as our collection of show merch, all of the Ask Us Anything episodes that we've made, all of it is yours. I miss you. Adrian and I thank you for your support. We love you. Yeah, and go to patreon.com/endoftheworldshow to check out all the juiciness. Okay, talk soon. I'm constantly thinking about we brought up October 7th, and I've been in this daily practice of how do I, in my own life, in my own spirit, in my own attention, share my breath with Palestine?
Mm.
How do I share my breath with the work of anti-Zionist Jewish people? How do I share my breath with the Sudan? How do I share my breath with the Congo? What does it mean to be on earth and actually think of myself as only receiving a percentage of what it has to offer and letting that be enough, and letting that be enough so that there's enough for everyone else to receive it? And then what are the interventions I have to make around that imbalance, right? And there's different, I've been noticing, like a lot of the people who we are seeing out of Palestine, I'm like, oh, you're casting a spell. Motaz cast a spell visually. Bisan cast a spell with her words. Like these are people who are casting spells. Mosab cast spells with his poetry, right? There's people, Suhair casts spells with her poetry. Like there's folks who are saying, I am going to shape the future, even if I might not get to live inside of it, because it's so important that I cast my spell as loud as I can. And then for those of us who are on the receiving end, who are like, okay, we're putting our bodies on the line, we're putting our actions on the line, we're putting our time on the line. Those are all spells. Those are all intention casting. But then inside myself, am I centering my Western life over the lives of all these other people? Right? Because you can't see what you can't see. And I think privilege is shaped to make it so that we can't see our privilege. And I feel like a lot of the political awakening for myself and a lot of other people since October 7th, because I'm like, a lot of us were paying attention before that, but there's been a different level of like, okay, like the people who are up to colonization are so not done. They think that they can continue doing that forever and ever. And so then those of us who are like, again, centering children, centering family, centering community, centering a relationship with the earth, centering connectivity and the fact that we do have everything we need, we have to be loud as well. We have to be even loud just with each other. Like I'm like, oh, I want to make sure, like there's zero personal relationships in my life where Gaza has not been picked up, held between us, looked at from every angle, right? Like I'm like, we have dealt with it. and
I
we will
this
continue
is
to deal with it. And that feels as important to me as anything I'm doing in the public sphere, right?
oh, that's so beautifully said. And one thing I've been sharing, in my meditation offerings, just sort of behind, not so much on social media, right? But just with folks who want to gather an intentional community, is that, this is a time where we must be strong,
Yes,
where we must meet power with power. And I'm not talking about replicating the power of, domination, of
exactly.
oppression, of not that, we don't
Yep.
need more of that energy. What I'm talking about is we need to match the
Yes.
power we see in the world that is kind of like saying, roll over, we're too powerful, don't even try.
Don't even
Like,
try.
first of all,
Give
we're not
up.
going to believe that.
Yeah.
But it's saying like the power of, what is it you posted on one of your memes around how it is we return, when we see a soulless world, what is that energy we
Oh,
need to return
yes.
to the sacred? It's that
By
essentially that love.
seeing it as sacred until it can remember.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's that kind of intention behind the power with that we need to come with, right? But
Mhm.
it needs to
Mhm.
be strong enough, maybe even stronger, to match that other kind of power we're seeing.
Yeah,
So when we're
absolutely.
saying like spiritual warfare is
Yeah.
happening, it's real. It's happening on the energetic level, and it is happening on the tangible, visceral level. Like, we're seeing it.
Yes.
Um, and we're also not seeing it, but we're certainly feeling it. Or
Yeah, I
not.
mean,
Or
I
not.
think that's that thing, right? Is like when I think about the fact that there's been a backlash against the very idea of being awakened, right? The very idea
Mhm.
of being like, I am paying attention and I care about factual information and I care
Right.
about being in a community of people who are responding to reality in real time. You know, the fact that we have that level of anti intellectualism, that level of pushing against reality and staying asleep and staying ignorant and
Mhm.
choosing to, it feels so
Mhm.
willful and cruel.
Mhm.
So it's a fascinating time, because it feels like, oh, we have to fight in the court system. We have to fight inside of corrupt systems that we know are dysfunctional. And we also have to be fighting at the spiritual level while also co-creating the networks and relationships and communities where trust flows and where the future flows. Because, that's I think that the collapse of so many of these systems is inevitable. And what will matter is who's ready to lead in the aftermath. And even now, we're already in some aftermath in some places. Like even now,
Absolutely.
right? There, in a lot of the places where we're hearing about genocide, is because genocide has been happening and there's already been so much loss. And the people we're hearing from are leaders who are like, we're still alive. There's still
That's
some
right.
future for us after this. Okay.
And that
We
just speaks to the piece of centering the children.
that this
That
is
piece,
yes,
that's
I
the
feel
first.
like this through line to me is like the witchcraft of centering children is the way, I'm like, if people took nothing else from this whole season, it might be that piece. It's just like to live in a world as if the children are the most important part of it and not like I know people who are like, I don't get along with kids or whatever, but it's like the future is the most important
Future,
thing
the future.
and the generation of that from because for me I'm just like, oh, the better my present is, the better my future is. Like
Mm.
the more I feel like I have agency and sovereignty and in community and all those things. Now,
Mm.
because our conversation is so fascinating, we have come up against the edge of time for it, and that's beautiful, right? Because
Absolutely.
I want to share this poem with you
Before
that
you do that,
yes.
Adrian, I just want
Yes,
to
my
take a
love.
moment. I just take a moment. We are centering the children, and we are centering Earth and the land as this conscious being,
Yes.
this witness. And I just want to do a land acknowledgement right now, calling in from the land of it's the Seminole, the Taino, the Mikosuki, and then two other folks whose names are not at the tip of my tongue. But I just again want to take a moment to center again this land and earth as conscious being, and drawing energy and power from this conscious being who still lives and breathes with us amidst this moment. So,
and I love what you said earlier, that is always waiting, is always ready to partner with and protect and join with us. Um,
yes,
yeah, there's so many more things, that are coming up that I'm like trusting that we'll just have more conversations so that they
I have
can keep
another
moving.
one. And if just the last question you had that we didn't touch into, what is one witchy thing that I would wish folks to do in this
Yeah.
apocalypse? It's the power of prayer.
That's it.
Talking. It doesn't matter
Prayer.
which team you ride with. It does not matter the name, but just talk, speak it
Mhm.
to source, and asking for help. Like, hey, I'm having a hard time. I need your help. Can you please
Yeah.
help me? That to me is what I wish more folks would lean into. Mm.
You better handle this interview. See, you're like you're like, "This sick ass didn't even get all the questions." So, I really appreciate that,
That
Wambui.
was
I
such a
feel so
beautiful
well
question.
met
I just,
and well I because
oh,
I
Adrian.
mean, even for me, I'm like, even in moments like this, I'm like, I have needed so much care. I
Mm,
lost last April, I lost a dear, dear friend of mine, and I've needed so much more care in the aftermath.
mm,
Like, literally, the grief, it impacted my immune system, it
I
impacted
believe
my
it.
capacity to think clearly, it
I
impacted
believe it.
my faith in humanity.
Mm,
Like,
mm,
I was so shaken on October
mm.
6th, like I was already so shaken up in terms of so
Yeah,
many aspects of my world. And then everything started happening with Gaza, which just
yeah.
took it
It's
took it further. And I've needed so much support to get through it,
yes,
right? And I've been
yes.
asking for help and like letting people take care of
Good.
me and learning
Oh,
that is, for my word for 2024 in a lot of ways
yeah.
is receiving, is
Yes,
like receiving,
yes,
because so many people want to
yes.
give me care and love. And
Oh,
I'm
I'm
so
so happy.
resistant to it. People are like, take turmeric. And I'm like, you don't know anything about me. I'm like, just receive the medicine, take some fucking turmeric. Like, the people
Yeah.
who love you are not guiding you astray. Like,
Oh,
the people who are
oh.
left in my close circle actually care about
Mm.
me. They're trying to offer me care.
I'm
So,
so
all right.
glad that people
The spell that I
are
want to offer to you is one of the last spells in Fables and Spells, and it felt so right when I went through and I was like, "What's left?" And
mhm.
Future Shaping Spell is one
Mm.
of the spells that is left, and it's
Okay.
like, of course, Future Shaping Spell for Wambui.
Mhm.
So it says, "What we will see in 20 years is what we shape. Right now, let's shape the future." We claim the power of our outrageous grief, our righteous anger, our responsibility for our precious lives, our interconnected individual and collective joy, and our impossible magic. We
Mm.
embrace our edges that they may teach us to grow in right relationship to the living world. Our human messiness, our weird and brilliant wonders. We know how to be in so many incredible ways. With these gifts, we can foment a revolutionary now that centers love, care, needs, creativity, and magic. We
Mm.
plant the seeds of radical honesty, vulnerability, authenticity, and the kindness that eases inevitable change. We will not settle. We will grow weirder and wilder, more
Mm.
interdependent for our liberation, for our liberation, for our liberation.
Mm.
Ashe.
Ashe, and so it is, and so it is.
And so
It
it
is done.
is.
Oh, Adrian.
What a dream. What a dream
Dream,
come
what a journey.
true.
And
You are truly a
listen,
dream.
let me just call in oh, you too. Let me call in brother Bayo Kamalafe, because
Oh, yes. Bio.
touched upon grief, but a good grief practice is where you maybe start with grief, but you end in gratitude, and that's
That's
where
right.
I'm sitting. So I
That's
just
right.
calling in that very powerful witch of brother Bayo.
Brother Bio has got some spells up in his face.
Oh, does
I
he?
love that man. Yes.
I love him.
Okay. You covered all the bases. I want to say thank you to you, Wambui, for your miraculous time this day and for making time for this inside of this self reclamation moment. I'm grateful
I
to
just
you.
love and
Um,
appreciate you so, Adrian.
so
Thank
much.
you.
It's the echo. I hope people can feel the echo chambers of love that are happening.
I'm
And for
sure.
everyone who's been listening, thank you. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the show. You can find us on Instagram at End of the World PC. Make a sustaining donation to our show at patreon.com/End of the World Show. It means a lot to us.
Shake these bones. Oh,
Write reviews on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen, or just wherever you are. Just tell people, I like this show. Listen to it. We are produced and edited by the incomparable Zach Rosen. Love y'all. Bye.